stretching, get a little flexibility. For this episode, we want to be really flexible.
I feel like I'm ready. I don't know if you're ready, but I'm ready.
Hi everyone, welcome back to 40 Fit Fu. I'm Sifu Mimi, this is Sifu Oscar, and today's episode we are talking about flexibility.
Pretty exciting subject, and flexibility is something I've been pursuing for, I don't know, maybe like 20 years.
So my background is a little bit different. Obviously, Oscar got a little bit of a later start, as we've been saying each week here, with his Kung Fu training. I was very fortunate to be stretched pretty much right away. My dad, as I understand it, as soon as he got home, was stretching me out, and so I was in the splits and everything before I was one. But it really wasn't a big deal because all babies can pretty much do splits, and I think we lose our split, but everybody I think is born with their split.
Yes.
So, and Oscar's going to talk a little bit more about the difference between flexibility and mobility and stuff, but kind of something fun we were discussing was Wah Lum is one of those styles where we all look to the Grandmaster, and he's always jumping in and out of splits. And so for a long time, it was kind of this signature.
That was his move.
It was his move. It was his signature move. There was a lot of splits. If you saw my movie, shameless plug, Poochie and Kung Fu Pioneer, you could see Dr. Kwan talking about, oh, he was so famous, especially in the 70s, for doing these splits. He would do them on the chairs, and he would jump in and out of them several times. So that was always kind of his signature move, and it was always really exciting to watch. And even up until a few years ago, he was still jumping in and out of splits. So it's kind of amazing, a little bit annoying, I'm not gonna lie, because it takes me a lot longer to get in and out of my splits. But one time, Oscar and I, we are so fortunate because we get to do these retreats with my parents, and we go and we take these long cruises all over the world, and you know, that's where we kind of have him. Pretty much, he can't escape us.
We can't. Anytime we go on vacation with him, that is a time where we can literally corner him.
Yeah, so we can learn all the secrets of Kung Fu. No. So one time Oscar was like, wow, I really want to learn how to do the splits. You know, I never was very athletic when I was younger, and my dad is obviously this great resource. And so he asked him and said, hey, how can I get better at the splits? And my dad just was like, well, you just have to practice the splits.
And then every day.
Every day, you know, and I was like, oh, well, thank you. Great advice. So that's our advice to you guys every day. Practice your split if you want to be able to
and we're
split.
out. No, actually, so that is actually, in his own way, saying that the law of specificity, right, which your body's going to adapt to the demands that you put onto it. So unfortunately, a lot of us spend a lot of time sitting down, bad posture, not really getting into it, and then you can't expect then with just a few minutes a week to improve your flexibility. It is something that takes time, it takes dedication, and you almost have to treat it like its own workout if it's something that you're lacking on. So I don't know, you let me know where you want me to go with this, because I'm so passionate about this subject.
This is only a 15-minute Facebook
I can
stream.
go on for a long time.
So maybe you can talk to them a little bit about the difference between the flexibility, mobility, concept, because now when people think flexibility, or if we do a move, people will say, well, I'm just not flexible.
Right. Okay, so for the purpose of this conversation, right, knowing that all these words are all made up anyway, right? I'm going to say that flexibility is kind of like your passive range of motion. So in Kung Fu, let's say that you're able to kind of ease your way into a split, and you can kind of just sit there, use your body weight as your momentum, and that's your passive range of motion. I look at that as flexibility. Mobility, for this conversation, is using your strength to kind of put you into that position. So if we were to use the splits as an example, it's someone who can probably literally jump in and out of those splits. Because we're talking about Wah Lum Kung Fu, I think a really good exercise that will define, and we can use this as a theme for the rest of it, is our side to sides. Or if you're not a Kung Fu practitioner, think of it as a lateral squat, because that is a really good blend of showing range of motion and using strength to get into it. That makes sense?
Absolutely. So for those that don't do Wah Lum, don't know what side to sides are, or lateral squats, basically you should probably have your regular squat first, right?
Yeah, so I would say, priority wise is you should have your regular squat first, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't practice your side to sides or lateral squats as long as you're not in pain. But the reason why it's really good is because you and I have both seen students who can drop into a split, but then when it comes to them doing their side to sides, they don't have the strength to get down there on their own. They can do a full split on the floor, all directions, but it's like, all right, now we're going to do side to sides, and maybe during basics they can start working their ways down. But then when we add it into a dynamic movement where they're going from high to low, they can't do it.
Right.
And so that is the difference between having your passive flexibility, your flexibility that we're defining in this term, and what I define as then your mobility. Are you able to have the strength to be in that position?
Right. Would that be also similar to, like, if you're doing a straight leg kick, you can straight leg kick and you can kick up here, but then holding your kick over your head or holding the position? Because some people ask me, oh, you see those really cool movie posters or, the kung fu shows where, like, they're holding their kicks out and they're like, I can kick that high, but I can't hold the kick.
Right. So that's actually an even better example, because using momentum to throw your leg up as a straight leg kick and being able to kick with your leg straight, as straight as you can, up to your head, and then you slowly picking up your leg and putting it in that same position, the difference between you throwing the leg up there and what you can do slowly, that's your difference between your active and your passive range of motion. And we want to try to work towards our active range of motion and not passive range of motion, because that by building strength, then you're going to be actually able to express that movement better.
Okay, so even though we were talking about flexibility today, a big part of it is also strength. So they do always kind of go hand in hand, as we've so noticed. And kind of growing up, I tended to just rely a little bit on my flexibility, right? So growing up, I was able to kind of go into a lot of these ranges of motions. But now that what Oscar just mentioned was, maybe, doing a jump kick into a low stance and then having to push out of it, I didn't really have enough strength and develop enough strength in order to use my passive range to make it an active range. Oh wow, this is really complicated, and there's like math involved.
Well, no, so actually this is a good point, because you will have to pay that price eventually, right? I think as kids we kind of have this buffer, or let's use you as an example. You're going to have a buffer of like, well, I have this I have my passive range of motion, my regular mobility, my flexibility, but if I don't practice building strength there, then at some point from a child to an adult, we are actually literally going to get heavier. Mm-hmm. And so what you're able to move as a child, you're going to need strength to be able to move that as an adult. Right. And if you don't train for that, then that's not going to carry over. So if we can think of something maybe practical for you to think of, I'm going to use something that I've learned through Strong First, which is a training protocol and a system of strength that I train my clients with. And when it comes to flexibility, they define flexibility as an end all be all, but they said think of 3 S's. The first S is your strength. So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Is you don't want to just passively drop into your stretch. You want to actively use your strength to get into it. So we can use again our side to side or lateral squat. Instead of just dropping into that lateral squat, use your strength and pull yourself into it. So that's the first S. The second S is you think of spreading the load. So again, if we're using our side to side as an example, then you want to try to spread the load to both legs, right? So I'm trying to use my bent leg to pull myself down. I'm trying to pull out with my extended leg. I'm trying to use my spine and my musculature of my abs to kind of keep me upright, again, instead of just dropping. So we're trying to spread the load of different muscles. And then the last one, so we have our strength, we have our spreading, and then we have creating space. And this is kind of, you can consider it almost like posture. So we don't want the joints to be jamming into each other. You want to try to think of creating space within the joints to get into that position. I don't know, that makes sense in my mind, but now that I said it out loud, I don't know, does it make sense to you?
It does, but then again, I've actually heard you give this speech before,
right.
So I kind of have an advantage where I've heard you kind of talk about this a lot, and so that's why I asked listeners, if you have any questions, feel free to type in on either of our sites. I'm not sure what happened to my phone, but it looks like it's turned sideways now, so I'm not quite sure. Let's see. Maybe not.
So that happened to me last time where they turned sideways.
I'm gonna once again blame Oscar though.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep vamping then on on mobility. So let's then remember the 3 S's, right? You want to use your strength, you want to spread the load throughout the entire body, and you want to create space where you're not like jamming into it. You want to try to create space between the joints. One of the best ways to do this, and we talked about it last week with our kind of like sleep and recovery, is to do full joint circles. Take them through their full range of motion every day, because you can use that as an assessment tool to see what you need to work on. Because most injuries happen when you're putting more force on a tissue than it's capable of withstanding. And so if you, let's just take our wrist, because you can see it. If you look at my wrist and I take it through its full range of motion, right? This is what I have. If I only had this and then I try to do even a push-up, I'm going to hurt my wrist because I don't have the strength to put myself in this range of motion. So I always kind of start there. Right. Is like, let's just test and assess each joint and take them through its full range of motion. If you can't do that, then that might be something that we need to work on. We can use different types of tools like isometric stretching and passively holding things to kind of expand your range of motion. But the main thing is that it takes time. And when I have someone who comes in and wants to say, hey, I want to get flexible, usually my answer, if I'm being honest, is I don't think you're really willing to put in the time to get flexible. It's really a lot of work, and you got to be willing to do it. So.
Yeah, so it is possible though. So
it's possible.
We want you to feel very hopeful about this whole process, that even though you are 40 plus, it's totally possible. It's just how bad you want it.
Yep.
You know, how much of a priority. But at the end of the day, a lot of the kids that I see that go off to college, one of the things, you know, that I tell them when they leave is just don't lose your flexibility. Yep. You know, stay mobile, stay moving, because it is really tough to get back once you start to lose it. I will say, yep. You know, if life gets in the way, I don't get to stretch as much. It takes me much longer to work into my split and just in getting that active range of motion and that strength that, you know, he was talking about. So definitely though, don't be discouraged. Everyone can do it. Again, we all look to the superhuman Grandmaster Chan as our example, which.
But let's actually use him as an example, right?
Okay.
So yes, he's not a normal person. That is definitely a fact, okay? But if you take someone who at 6 years old was already pretty mobile, and then every single year up until now, where he's gonna turn 80 this year, mm-hmm. has never stopped moving, has never not squatted, not done his side to sides, not done those things, he's put in a lot of freaking work. It's not just like, oh, this is easy for me.
Right.
When you look at it as an accumulation, it's a lot of work that he's puts into it. And anyone who trains with me and sees him working outside, they know that. They're like, look at this man. He's working. He's just nonstop moving. So there's another thing that I like to say is, have you earned the right to be flexible? Instead of thinking, well, I'm just not a flexible person, a better question is like, have I put in the work and have I earned the right to be able to do the moves that I want to do. Right. Yeah.
We got to be a little honest with ourselves.
Exactly.
A little honesty time. But, you know, if you don't have any questions or you think questions after, you can always type into us. We're really happy to give any information that you feel would be helpful for you in your training. Thank you to those who tuned in today. I see Keith is on both sites. I don't know how that's even possible. You're in two places at once.
Oh, you know what?
Hi,
he is
Keith.
very technologically savvy. And look, Savannah.
Hi. And then I saw some people earlier in my
Savannah,
feed.
who is also
Danny and Lillian, thank you for tuning in.
Used to be a dancer.
We appreciate you.
You know, dancers also make really good martial artists.
They do, because they have good active and passive range of motion. And so, but the thing is, we're all given the body we're given, so just take care of it, and anything is possible, even if you're 40 plus. So please don't be discouraged. And I think in terms of flexibility, it's something that we're all working on, constantly working on, and can continue to work on.
Yeah, and I still have goals. You know, goals of mine might have changed from like jumping in and out of a split, mm-hmm. as opposed to like, can I use my body the way that to the best of its ability? Mm-hmm. And yes, you've got to be flexible and mobile to do certain things. So if you don't work on it, you can't expect like magic to happen by trying it one time.
No magic?
Well, you can. A few things. Kids, look away, but the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, and magic. I don't know. Those are three things maybe we need to kind of tell people that it sometimes aren't real. The magic is in the hard work. You got to put in the work, and just remember, if you want something, ask yourself if you've earned the right to do that by putting in the work. But you've got to go about it in a smart way, and that's what we're here for. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up. Even if you watch this video later, I'd be happy to answer anything with kind of like what are some protocols on how to get to do a movement.
To jump in and out of the splits like Grandmaster Chan.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep
We're all working on that.
At 80 years old, I'm gonna get it at 80.
Yeah, we're gonna wait till we're 80 because it's much more impressive at that time.
Right.
All right. So a quick ask is if you are enjoying this, please give us feedback. Let us know. Let us know if you have questions, and also tune in next week because we will be back every Tuesday at 7:30. 40 Fit Fu.
Whether you like it or not, and whether we like it or not.
Yeah, we're committed. We are committed.
We're gonna do it. So you can also follow us
Yes.
follow this on Facebook of when it's live, so get notifications. You can turn on your notifications.
Turn on notifications.
If not, just check us out. At your own time,
Leisure.
at your leisure,
At your leisure.
Yeah, at your leisure. Right, exactly.
Thank you for all of you who tuned in today. A lot of great feedback. Thank you guys so much, and hope this has been helpful. See you next week.
All right, I'm gonna do a little stretch.
Oh, nice, nice. All right. Bye, everybody.